The church and the world always faces challenges. Every generation has to make decisions about how do we use the resources, the wealth, which seems to be a part of our daily living. Some of those decisions are not easily made, but they're always in front of us. Each and every one of us, not only collectively, but personally, make these kinds of decisions each and every day. For example, we're now entering into what is supposed to be the most consumer-oriented week of the whole year. Black Friday isn't just Black Friday anymore. Now those retailers are promising us bargains even earlier than the Friday after Thanksgiving. And folks are now flocking, if you will, to take advantage of those special deals. And we live in a world now where technology is seeming to make inroads upon those retailers, and people are now ordering all kinds of things online. Every time during this season of the year, I begin to think about what does it mean for us to live in this world which is so overwhelmingly directed by the consumer mentality of which we are a part. How many things will we buy as gifts for folks who don't really need them, but we think we ought to give something, and so we pick up something that maybe not even useful to them, but we buy it because it's there in front of us and it's a good deal. How thoughtful are we about how we make decisions in the face of all the propaganda that seems to want to force us to just simply spend and spend and spend? And after it's all said and done, have we truly made the world a better place? Each one of us will have to make those decisions for herself or himself. And yet they do have a ripple effect into the future as well as into the immediate life of the world in which we live. So my prayer is that we will be thoughtful about how we use the resources with which we have been blessed, so that in some way we may make them a blessing for the world around us and beyond us as well. Fortunately, we have many opportunities to do that, and there are many occasions when in front of us is an opportunity to make a difference. Not just to the folk we know and love and about whom we care, but about the stranger who is in our midst, if you will. Because the world is full of need, as it has been in every generation. What did Jesus say when he was anointed with the oil? He said, "The poor you will have with you always." Meaning there are many opportunities in every generation from the beginning of time for folks who have to make a difference for those who have not. One of the great pieces of history about the church of which we are a part comes out of the life of the Wesleys, who were members of the Church of England, who had sort of isolated itself from the poor and the needy of their own day. And as the Wesleys looked at how they were going to proclaim the love and grace and hope that Christ brought into the world, they said the place we need to do that is for those who are poor and dispossessed and in need and whom life has broken. And so they went to those places and began to educate children and to work with parents and do all sorts of things that brought the hope of Christ into the lives of those people. The Church of England said, "We want you to stop doing that. You're embarrassing us." Think about that, friends. Here is an institution that is rooted and grounded in its very relationship with Jesus Christ as Lord, who probably had read the words from the Gospel of Matthew over and over and over again, but somehow had a disconnect between what these words were trying to convey to us and the reality of the world in which they lived. Friends, we can't afford to have that kind of disconnect. We have to take seriously what Jesus said to the folk who were listening to him. He was using this metaphor of the sheep and the goats as a way of saying that every one of us has the ability to make a significant difference in this world. You know, it's a strange thing, but it just seems to me that as we think about the season into which we are entering, it's time to take a little look at ourselves and to see how we do things. You know, I talked with the children about the upcoming celebration of the birthday of Jesus. Do you know, one of the things I've always thought over the years is that when you celebrate a birthday, you should give a party for everybody else. And do you know that Jesus did exactly that? Think about that for a moment. He gave a party for the world. And the party was that he gave the gift which is the most important to any one of us. He gave the gift of himself, that the world might be a better place. Is that not the kind of gift that we are being asked to give? There's another space in the gospel where Peter is talking with Jesus about their relationship, and Jesus says to Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Oh, absolutely, Lord. You know I love you." And then Jesus says, "Feed my sheep." And then he says it again, "Peter, do you love me?" And of course, Peter answers in the affirmative, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." And then Jesus says, "Feed my sheep." Isn't that exactly what the Gospel of Matthew is talking about? Now, Jesus used the image of sheep because everybody understood what sheep were. They were such an essential part of the economy, and you had to care for them, and you had to nurture them, and you had to watch out for them. And so they couldn't miss what Jesus was trying to say to them. We don't particularly live in an agrarian society, although we're still pretty strong in that direction around here. But when Jesus said, "Feed my sheep," he was saying, put yourself on the line. Take action that makes a difference for those who are in peril or in need or broken in some way. And that's exactly what he was saying when the Gospel of Matthew was written and when he used this imagery. These are very practical things about which Jesus is speaking, friends. They're not going to escape our minds or our imaginations unless we choose to ignore them. But this is the world in which we live, and this is the world into which Christ came and gave a birthday party for us. Basically, to give one's life for one's friends. To give one's life to make the world a better place is the most precious gift any of us can give. And Jesus set the pace. Jesus gave himself that we might have life and have it in all its fullness. But not just me and not just you. Over my 45 years of ministry, occasionally I have somebody who says, "Well, I'm not going to keep going to that church because I'm not being fed." Nothing irritates me more than that phrase. Because they're not seeing what the gospel is all about. It's not about me as an exclusive individual. It's about me and my relationship with Jesus Christ. And when that relationship is in place, the Spirit of the living God feeds me and empowers me and enables me to do things that if I just simply relied on myself alone, I could never do. My question always is, and if you're not being fed, who are you feeding? You know, this consumer mentality, it strikes our churches as well, and we become consumers of religion. But sometimes we miss the most important part of that. And that is what comes in has to go out. It has to go out. It's not just about me or about you individually, although you're so precious to God. But it is as God touches our lives, we begin to see the difference that God can make in the world. And so we do feed the hungry. We do clothe the naked. We do visit those who are in prison or who are sick. These things become imperative to us. We do not and cannot ignore them. So if we are going to be serious about this season of the year, we have to, one, be hearers of the word, Did you hear what Jesus said about the sheep and the goats? Did you hear it? And then the question is, will you do it? We are called to be hearers and doers of the word. And that's exactly what Jesus was saying to Peter, who professed his love. But he was saying, Peter, as you continue to be my disciple, you will be confronted with many opportunities to feed my sheep, to feed this world that is so much in travail right now. We will be fed because the Spirit of the living God does feed us every day. Be open to that, but also be ready to feed my sheep. Be hearers and doers